At the center of the world, monsters dwell on the white snowfield. There are monsters like the white serpent that devour glaciers. There is a gray bear that causes earthquakes. There is even the vile rat that pollutes the seas. In all of these, an emperor returned alive from the white snowfield and said the most dangerous thing isn't the monsters. In the white snowfield, barbarians are seen running around, taking out monsters and eating them for snacks. Among them is our MC, Katal, and he seems to be the only one with higher intelligence. Katal always tried to lecture his fellow comrades on some of the dangers of eating poisonous creatures, but these dudes don't care. Katal then narrates how he never wanted to live amongst clueless and savage barbarians. Katal's entire idea was to go to a fantasy world, which is a world of magic and wonder. Because of this, he quits his boring job and goes on a journey. He climbed the tallest mountain on Earth, reached the Earth's core. He even traveled to the southernmost point on the planet. However, he found nothing. He realized that reality is very far from fantasy. However, he didn't give up, and every night he prayed that he would wake up in the middle of a fantasy world. And then one day, Kettle's prayers were answered. Now, in the white snowfield, a caravan carrying important goods is passing through, and it is being guarded by a bunch of mercenaries. The mercenaries are hit with so much cold that some of them start to complain that the risk isn't worth the reward. Sitting in one of the couches is Melina of the house Akasha, and she is accompanied by her butler. The butler asks Melina how she is feeling, and she assures the butler that she is fine while the mercenaries outside are complaining of the cold. The butler talks trash about the mercenaries, but Melina tells him not to since they are the only ones willing to risk guarding them through the supposedly dangerous white snowfield. The butler then asks Melina if she knows what resides in the snowfield, and she says monsters. The legends once talked about an emperor who wanted to control the whole world, and he also wanted to conquer the white snowfield. Because of this, he led every strong fighter and soldier he had into the snowfield. A few years after this, his empire comes crashing down since its ruler is nowhere to be found. Later on, the emperor returned, but all of his soldiers were gone. He looked really old, and he spoke from a place of horror. The emperor came out with the popular saying that the most dangerous thing in the snowfield is not the monsters, but the barbarians that reside there. The butler believes that this is nothing but a legend. However, Melina begs to differ since the emperor's words carried weight, and most of the creatures that he described were later discovered. However, no one has ever claimed to see a barbarian except for the emperor. Suddenly, the carriage comes to a halt. The mercenaries spot something in the distance, but it doesn't seem clear to them yet. The captain of the mercenaries tells his soldiers to prepare themselves in anticipation. Just then, the unidentified object moves closer to them, and the image of a towering giant man appears right in front of them. His face looked scary, and he finally opened his mouth to talk. It turns out to be our MC, and he reveals that he got tired of the other barbarians, which is why he came for a stroll. Kettle is surprised to have run into outsiders in the snowfield, and he attributes it to luck. Kettle offers his greetings to the mercenaries, and he quickly figures out that they are guarding the caravan. He wants to suggest that they turn back, but he knows that they won't. While he is speaking, the mercenaries are too stunned to speak as they are trying to process what it is that is standing in front of them. Just then, Katal asks the captain if their employer is in the caravan. He reveals his wishes to be hired just like the mercenaries too. The mercenaries immediately raise their arms against Katal, but then he makes himself clear. He lets them know that he is willing to help them cross the snowfield. The captain is surprised that Kettle the barbarian is not hostile toward them, but in fact asking for work. Kettle assures the captain that if he meant to do harm, they would all be dead already. The captain reluctantly asks Melina what she wants to do regarding Ketal's request. Melina wants to know what will happen if they fight Ketal, and the captain lets her know that fighting Ketal seems to be out of their options. After weighing what the captain said, Melina agrees to hire Ketal. The captain then walks over to Ketal to tell him the lady's decision. Ketal is glad to hear this, and he walks toward the caravan. The mercenaries have the intention to stop him, but their bodies won't because of the overwhelming aura emanating from Ketal. Ketal tells the mercenaries that he only wants to speak with Melina. One of the mercenaries wants to protest against this, but the captain reminds them that Melina already approved of it. In addition to this, the captain is wise enough to know that they don't even have what it takes to stop Ketal. Ketal reaches the caravan, and he asks to come in. The butler almost pisses his pants when Melina tells Ketal to enter. Upon entering the caravan, Kettle tells the butler to calm his nerves because he has no intentions of harming him. Kettle says this while pushing the butler to the caravan walls with his big body. Melina is stunned as she cannot believe that the legendary barbarian is sitting in front of her. The two offer their greetings, and Ketal mentions how warm it is inside the caravan. He reveals his surprise that the caravan can retain its warmth through the harsh cold weather in the snowfield. Melina then reveals that this is made possible because of magic. Ketal doesn't look surprised as he already knows that this might be the reason. Catal then tells Melina that their chances of passing through the snowfield with mercenaries are quite low. However, he is going to protect them, but he has just one condition. Melina asks him what he wants, and he reveals that he wants information about the outside world. He wants to know what is going on outside the snowfield. Melina is shocked to hear this, but since she is not losing anything and in fact, she has no choice, she assures Catal that she will tell him what he wants to know. Since they will be working together, the two finally exchange names. Apparently, Ketil just woke up one day to find himself as a barbarian in the snowfield. He didn't have the time to figure out why this happened to him. The only things that existed there were the terrible cold and ridiculously strong monsters. He is the leader of a tribe in the snowfield, and they hunt to survive. Without realizing it, countless years passed. He tried many times to get out of the snowfield, but there was an apparent system that prevented him from leaving. The system informs Catal that he can only leave when he has completed all the quests. He was about to give up on everything when the Emperor and his men showed up. He wondered why humans would willingly come to a place as terrible as the White Snowfield. This was when he realized that the world outside the snowfield is a world of fantasy and magic that he had so much wanted to visit. Once he figured out this truth, Catal began taking the quest seriously. He hunted down giant lizards and monsters that the quests gave to him. He continued doing this, believing that one day he would get the chance to leave the snowfield. However, until then, he plans to gather information about the outside world, and this is why he is talking to Melina. Catal is glad that Melina is calm, unlike most humans that he has met in the past. Most people he met in the past were violent, but talking to Melina gives him the sense that he is having a conversation with a civilized person. Catal then asks Melina if the caravan is moving weapons. Melina is shocked by the question, and she asks Catal how he knows. Catal replies that he can hear the sound of sharp steel from the wagons, which makes it easy to figure out. He then asks if there is a war on the outside, to which she says yes. Apparently, the Empire and the Kingdom are currently at war. Catal is not totally surprised that even the outside world is not entirely peaceful. Melina reveals that the Empire is currently controlling the battlefield, but the Kingdom is still trying its best to hold out. The Kingdom's swordmasters and heroes are protecting the border to keep things at bay. Catal hears about swordmasters, and he immediately becomes interested. He asks Melina what sort of power the swordmasters are using. Melina then asks him if he knows about mysticism, but he says no. Melina explains that a power called mysticism exists in the world. Apparently, only a few can use or even sense the power. These few are granted one of the 5 ranks of strength. There is the 3rd rank. These are people who can sense the power of mysticism. The 2nd rank is those who can use the power of mysticism. The 1st rank is those who can materialize the power of mysticism into mana or aura. People like knights and wizards usually belong to the 1st rank. However, there are those who have transcended the rankings. These are the people who can dominate mysticism and use it freely. They are capable of doing very powerful things, and this is the rank that the swordmaster belongs to. And when talking about the heroes, they are far beyond everything else. They are basically an influence on the world itself. Melina considers the heroes beings that are out of this world. After hearing everything that Melina has to say, Catal wonders how long he has been trapped in the snowfield. At this point, he doesn't really care again. He just wants to get out of the snowfield and reach the outside world, which is the fantasy world that he has been longing for. Melina then asks Catal if he is a barbarian, to which he says yes. Melina reveals that there is a legend about the barbarians. This shocks Catal as he never knew that something like this existed. He realized that the Emperor must have been the one who went out to spread such. Catal then moves past the legend talk, and he talks about the large number of weapons being moved by Melina. He asks Melina if there is a particular reason for them to go through the snowfield, to which Melina replies that her family needs a whole load of money. Catal asks her why, and she explains that her family has been in the commercial industry for quite a while. However, they are currently in debt because their rivals found a way to sabotage them. The expedition Melina is embarking on is one that would prevent the total collapse of the family. Catal is impressed by this, and he mentions that they are selling weapons to the kingdom. Melina is shocked, and she asks Catal how he knows this. Catal reminds her that she previously mentioned that the Empire is winning the war, which means they don't need a resupply of weapons. Since the supply of weapons is low, the demand would be high. In return, the price would be high, and because of the situation, Catal figures out that the weapons would be of high value. For them to even be going through the risky snowfield, Catal knows that it is quite valuable. Catal then asks if there is no other way to reach the kingdom without passing the snowfield, and Melina says yes. Melina is shocked by everything she has seen so far, since everything she heard about barbarians is the fact that they are uneducated and they are a bunch of savages. She wonders if Catal is truly a barbarian. And just then, the carriage runs into a bit of a problem. The carriage has run into a black slime, leaving them scared. Ketal is the only person sitting comfortably in the caravan without any sense of fear. Melina tells him about the records that are being kept concerning dangerous monsters in the snowfield. There are strong adventurers who have entered the snowfield in the past, but little made it out alive. Out of those few are the ones who left records of the monsters that they encountered. Among the said creatures is the black slime. Melina asks Ketal if he knows about the black slime, and he says yes. However, Ketal considers them to be snacks and nothing really dangerous. Melina is shocked when she hears that Ketal eats the black slimes. He then suggests that they catch some so that they can eat, but she immediately refuses. The moment Melina sees that the black slime is posing a threat to the mercenaries, she starts to scream at Ketal for help. However, Ketal refuses to move, telling Melina that he is not going to act unless they come across something that poses an actual danger to them. He tells Melina that the mercenaries should be able to handle the black slime. In addition to this, he wants to gauge the level of strength between the mercenaries. Realizing that Ketal is not coming to help, the captain of the mercenaries starts screaming out orders for his men. He sets up a formation for those who would play defense and then orders some of his men to attack. They manage to hit the black slime, but it doesn't do much damage. The captain has a bit of experience under his belt, and he tells his men to scatter and coordinate themselves since the black slime can only move in straight lines. The mercenaries follow the instructions of their captain, and in a coordinated attack, they are able to hurt the black slime. The mercenaries refuse to back down and only keep the attack going. The captain tells his men to attack the slime and try to look for its core. After some minutes of battling the black slime, they are able to reach the core and destroy it, ultimately defeating the black slime. An echo of victory rises among the mercenaries. They are glad that they managed to take down the scary monster without sustaining any casualties. However, Ketal sits in the caravan, totally unimpressed. Not long after this, they run into another monster, a wolf this time around. The mercenaries carry the morale from their last battle into this, and they are able to easily take down the beast. After taking down their latest beast, the mercenaries start getting cocky, believing that the monsters in the snowfield are not that scary. However, the captain tells his men not to let down their guard since they have not even made it halfway through the snowfield. Whispers start spreading among the mercenaries as they wonder if Ketal is really strong or if he is just lying. They are also mad that he hasn't done anything to protect them since he joined them. In fact, they believe that he is the one tagging along so that they can protect him. Some of the mercenaries believe that it would be much better if they could verify his strength. The mercenaries soon take their complaint to Melina. They talked about how they have risked their lives, but Ketal has done nothing. They tell Melina that they would like to verify whether Ketal is strong or if he is just messing with them. Melina is confused as she doesn't know what method the mercenaries plan to use in verifying if Ketal is strong. The captain apologizes on behalf of his men, telling the lady that he tried to stop them, but he couldn't. Ketal soon learns about the mercenaries' complaint. He then tells them that there is no time to verify his strength yet because they have just received an unwanted visitor. The mercenaries believe that Ketal is just messing around until they turn to see a giant and scary snake standing behind them. The snake is determined to make a meal out of the humans, making it very dangerous. The presence of the snake petrifies the mercenaries. Just then, Ketal speaks to the snake, telling the snake to back off because the humans are under his protection. However, the snake remains stubborn, trying to remind Ketal of the rules guarding the snowfield. Ketal urges the snake to mind its business, but the snake refuses to back down. The snake raises its head, ready to strike, and this is when Ketal loses it. He decides that a good beating will get the snake back to its senses. He approaches the snake, and with just a single punch, he is able to make the snake scream for its life. The hit from Ketal's punch leaves a shockwave in the area. The snake passes out from Ketal's strike, but Ketal decides to finish it off since it refused to heed his warning. With just one more hit that showcases how dangerous Ketal is, he finishes off the beast. After he is done beating the snake to death, the mercenaries all turn to Ketal, asking him to forgive them for acting all stupid. Ketal acts petty toward them, but the journey continues. The butler then joins the mercenaries outside, leaving Ketal with Melina. Ketal then asks Melina why someone who seems to be of importance, like her, is the one running such a dangerous errand for her family. Melina reveals that she is the first daughter of her mother, who is her father's mistress. Her mother is a second wife who came for a political marriage but was used and abandoned. Apparently, Melina and her mother hold no real significance in the family. They are basically nothing, and because of this, they are treated like servants. Melina further adds that she volunteered to go on the mission. Melina admits that the mission is quite dangerous, but someone needed to set an example. After hearing Melina's story, Ketal concludes that she is clever. In addition to this, he believes that she is ambitious. Not long after this, they arrive at the end of the snowfield. They all thank Catal for his assistance. Catal then asks Melina how they plan to return, and she reveals that they are going to go through the Empire since they will no longer be carrying weapons. Melina then asks Catal why he called her a clever and ambitious person. Catal tells the lady that this is exactly what he means. Since her family is losing their status and they are in debt, Catal figures out that Melina is using the opportunity to be her family's savior. Even though she is the daughter of the second wife, the people will obviously trust and follow her. Catal has been able to piece together that Melina is trying to seize real power in the family. After hearing everything Catal has to say, Melina confesses that he is not wrong. Melina is shocked at how a barbarian like Catal is so clever. It dawns on Melina that having Catal by her side would actually mean a lot. Melina then offers Catal the chance to follow her out of the snowfield, but Catal declines the offer, telling Melina that he still has some things that he needs to sort out. Melina is disappointed, but she decides to give Catal her family's crest. She tells him to look for the Akasha family if he ever decides to come outside and show them the treasure. Catal gladly accepts the gift and hopes that they all meet again someday. Melina and her entourage ride off, and Catal returns to the snowfield to take on the quests given to him. 5 years later, Catal finally meets all the conditions set, and he completes the quest. The system informs him that he can finally leave the snowfield. With excitement, Catal takes his first step out of the snowfield into the fantasy world that he has always wanted to visit. Catal steps into the woods, and he takes in all the scents of animals, flowers, trees, and other things made of nature that he didn't have when he was in the snowfield. Catal takes one last look at the snowfield, and he declares that he is never coming back to it. He is finally in the fantasy world that he dreamed of, which he never thought he would reach. Even though everything went wrong from the start, Catal doesn't mind. He has made it to the fantasy world, and he is ready to enjoy himself. He is looking forward to seeing swords, magic, dragons, and elves. He looks further into the forest and feels human presence coming from there. Catal assumes that he is close to a village, and he excitedly walks in that direction. As he approaches the location, he is stuck between what sort of greeting he should go with. Not being able to come to a decision, Catal decides that he is just going to act like a gentleman. Meanwhile, the presence that Catal felt was a bunch of elves finally settling into the environment. An elf elder tells his people to unpack their things and get ready to make the area their home. One of the elves asks the elder if the area is really safe for them, and the elder says yes. He reveals that they are in an extremely remote area that humans rarely come to. This is because the snowfield is close to them, and the elders assure the elves that they have nothing to worry about when it comes to the snowfield. There have not been any reports of anything coming out of the snowfield in thousands of years, so he assures them that they are safe. To be safer, they have set up a barrier around the area. It is a concealment spell that hides the presence of the elves and makes the place look like an ordinary forest. The elder elf reveals that they spent months putting together while following ancient elven magic that they managed to recover. He is confident that no outsider will be able to reach them as long as the barrier holds. However, in a rare case that monsters come attacking, the elder elf is confident that the elf queen will take care of the problem really easily since she is pretty powerful. At the same time, Catal is walking toward the settlement, and he accidentally cuts through the barrier without even realizing it. He continues walking until he runs into an elf child who wandered away from the settlement. Catal is immediately blown away just by the sight of an elf. He considers himself a lucky person since elves are considered to be a rare race. Just then, the elven child also notices the towering image standing above her. Catal waves his hand to the kid, but she immediately passes out in fear. Catal picks up the girl and decides to return her to the village. Catal is confident that the elves will welcome him with open arms since they are considered to be a peaceful race. Catal arrives at the village only to receive a hostile welcome. The elves are thrown into disarray as they wonder how Catal broke through the barrier. Even the elven elder is surprised to see a human, since the entire area is supposed to be forbidden for humans. The elves soon figure out that Catal has caused a crack in the barrier. The elves start to pee their pants because their queen is not home. She went to scout the area. Catal tries telling the elves that he is not their enemy, but none of them is ready to hear what he has to say. The elves believe that Catal and other humans have come to attack them just like they always do. Catal finally realizes that the elves see him as a kidnapper. He plans to clear the misunderstanding, and to do this, he returns the elven kid he is carrying in his hand. The child turns back to look at Catal, and she only sees the same scary image from before. She runs toward her people in tears. Catal then speaks to the elves, pointing out that he has returned the child, which shows that he is not their enemy. However, this doesn't work as the elven leader orders the elves to attack Catal since the kid has returned to them safely. The elves fire arrows at Catal, leaving him to wonder if the elves are even trying to listen to what he has to say. As the elves attack, Catal reveals his disappointment. With what he heard, he believes that elves are supposed to be gentle, but he realizes that reality is quite different from fairy tales. He figures out that the elves have gotten aggressive because only the fittest win the game of survival. All the elven attacks fail to penetrate Katal's skin, but they keep attacking, believing that he must have a limit. Realizing that the elves are not ready to calm down, Katal claps his hands, releasing a massive shockwave. The shockwave throws the elves in different directions and also leaves a deep crater where Katal is standing. The elf elder is shocked to see this as he wonders just what sort of monster Katal is. Katal realizes that he misjudged his strength, but then he tells the elf leader that he is not an enemy to the elves. Suddenly, a massive fiery arrow hits Katal from behind. The arrow hits Katal on the head, engulfing him in fire. The attack came from the elven queen, Marsaria. The queen demands to know what happened, and the elf leader claims that they were attacked by a human. Marsaria concludes that the area is also not safe for them. Just when the smoke clears, Marsaria and the other elves are left in total shock to see that Katal is still standing. The elder elf wonders how Katal is able to take Marsaria's direct blow and doesn't die. Without hearing from Katal, the queen concludes that Katal is there to hurt them. She prepares to fire another arrow at Katal. Katal wonders why none of the elves are acknowledging what he is trying to tell them, even though they are all speaking the same language. Since the elves are not ready to hear what he has to say, he plans to beat it into them. Marsaria fires her arrow, but Katal punches it back at her. Katal misjudges his strength again, and it almost ends the queen's life. The arrow misses her but destroys everything behind her. Marsaria realizes that the foe she is going up against is pretty strong. She wonders why someone as powerful as Katal is in the area. She immediately orders the elves to run away from the area. The elves adhere to the queen's instructions, and they all make a run for it. The queen then faces Katal, telling him that he will never achieve his sinister goal. Katal is shocked because all he wants to do is talk. The queen then resorts to the last thing she can do when her homeland is threatened. She speaks some chants and summons a giant fiery bull. Katal doesn't feel threatened by this, but he is rather impressed. He realizes that the bull with horns ablaze in flames standing in front of him is a spirit, and this is something straight out of fantasy. Marsaria then orders the bull to annihilate Katal. The bull, Fiego, complains about the summoning, but Marsaria tells it to shut its mouth. Apparently, Fiego is a high-ranking fire spirit that holds flame in its horns. The stronger the spirit, the older and more boastful they get. Marsaria admits that she wouldn't have been able to summon a high-ranking fire spirit like Fiego, but she got help from another tribe, and she barely succeeded in forming the contract. Marsaria then orders Fiego to fulfill his contract. Fiego takes a good look at who he is supposed to annihilate, and he wonders if Katal is even human. Even though Fiego is doubtful, he still has to fulfill his contract. He decides that he is going to burn Katal to ashes. He charges toward Katal, leaving destruction in his wake. Surprisingly, Katal grabs Fiego's horn with just one hand. Fiego almost breaks apart when this happens. Katal admits that he is impressed by seeing a spirit, but at the same time he doesn't mind beating it to death. Katal hits Fiego with a single punch, throwing him several meters away, while also splitting in half. Fiego splitting in half leaves massive destruction where it lands. When this happens, Marsaria falls to her knees in despair. She has done everything in her power, but couldn't leave a scratch on Katal. Kettle walks toward her and she begs that her people be spared. Standing tall and confident, Katal says what he has been saying since the beginning. He tells Marsaria that he is not her enemy, nor is he an enemy of the elves. Marsaria is shocked to hear this, and after a bunch of conversation, the elves finally accept the truth. Marsaria and the elves apologize to Katal for judging too quickly. Katal then assures Marsaria that he understands her situation since she said they were driven to the remote area by humans. He is only sad that the elves didn't hear him out before attacking him. Katal then reveals that it is his first time seeing an elf since there are no elves in the white snowfield. Marsaria is shocked when she realizes that Katal is from the snowfield where it is said that humans can't survive. Marsaria then reveals her worry. She asks Katal if there are others who can come from the snowfield too. Katal assures Marsaria that the possibility of someone or any monster coming out of the snowfield is very unlikely because there are rules in the snowfield that even powerful beasts like dragons cannot afford to break. He knows that his escape from the snowfield is nothing but an exception. Marsaria is relieved to hear this. Katal then asks her about Fiego since it got split in half. The queen assures Katal that he has nothing to worry about. Since the spirits are beings of nature, Fiego would just return to the spirit realm through reverse summoning. Since she was rude to Kettle, she asks him if there is anything that he wants. She promises Kettle that whatever he asks for, she is going to grant it. Kettle then asks Marsaria if it is possible for humans to form contracts with spirits. The queen reveals that this is not possible, but there are some humans who have become one with nature, and these humans can form contracts with spirits. Marsaria then thinks it over again, and she tells Catal to head to a place called Elfo Sagrado if he wants to form a contract with a spirit. Elfo Sagrado is where the elven divine beings live, and it is considered to be the sacred land of elves. Marsaria tells Catal that what he wants might be possible at Elfo Sagrado. Catal wonders if a human like him can go to the elven sanctuary. Marsaria admits that humans can't get there, but with her permission, Catal will be able to. Marsaria promises to give Catal the location of Elfo Sagrado, but urges him to keep it safe since some vile humans will do anything to reach there. Elves have never revealed the location to other races, but for some reason, the Queen trusts Catal with the location. Marsaria conjures what seems to be a GPS tracker for Catal. She tells him to take it with him, and it will lead him to Elfo Sagrado. However, she lets him know that he will be tested by the elven divine beings. Not that Marsaria is worried about this because she is very confident that Catal will pass. Marsaria wishes him luck on his journey, and after exchanging names, Catal leaves. With just a leap, Catal clears a great distance in the forest. Catal continues at this incredible speed, and in no time, he reaches the border of the Barkan territory, which is in the kingdom of Gehenthra. The guards sense that something is approaching, causing them to panic. When Catal finally emerges from the forest, the guards are left in absolute disbelief. With a calm and happy face, Catal offers his greetings to the guards. The guards are still stunned, and it soon dawns on them that the dude standing in front of them is a barbarian. He walks toward the guards, but they immediately raise their arms at him. They threaten to attack if he comes any closer. Catal urges the guards to calm down because he is not their enemy. The guard captain then asks Catal what he wants from them. Catal points at the city walls, then lets the guards know that he would like to visit their territory. The guards are left in a state of shock as they find it difficult to give Catal an answer. When the captain finally pulls himself together, Catal is taken into private so that he can be interrogated. The captain asks him how long he plans to stay in the city, and Catal sincerely tells the captain that he doesn't have an idea. He then asks for his name and identity. Catal reveals his name, but for identification, he doesn't have. Just then, he remembers the piece that Melina gave him 5 years ago. He brings it out and hands it over to the captain. The captain is confused as he doesn't know what the jewelry is. Catal then explains that it is the Akasha family's crest. He mentions that he received it from a descendant of the Akasha family. When the captain hears this, he realizes that the Akasha family is the merchant family from the kingdom of Denian. Apparently, the family has started gaining influence in recent times, and this was after the head of the family was replaced some years back. Catal then asks the guard if the crest is enough to confirm his identity. The guard hesitates to answer, and Catal asks him if the crest is not from the kingdom. The guard explains that the crest is from the Denian kingdom, but they are currently in the kingdom of Gehenthra. The guard tells Catal that the crest is not a confirmation, but at least it is helpful. He lets Catal know that he can enter the city, but there is a condition that he needs to meet. Apparently, they need confirmation that Catal is not dangerous. The captain informs Catal that he will join a party. There are 3 other people who are trying to enter the territory, and Catal will form a party with them. Catal and his party will then clear the dungeon, which is close to the territory. Without hesitation, Catal accepts the condition. The guard then mentions that Catal would have to tell them everything that happened while clearing the dungeon. Catal immediately figures out the captain's game plan. Apparently, he is making people with no identities gather information about each other so he can then use this to filter out the suspicious or good people. Catal is impressed with the guard's way of doing things. The captain asks Catal if he is truly a barbarian, to which he says yes. The captain then stops the conversation and suggests that they get going. Meanwhile, the other 3 guys are in the waiting room. There is the self-proclaimed holy knight, Tyrannus. There is also the thief, Kasan. These 2 seem to have a beef of unknown origin with each other. They continue insulting each other and are even about to fight before the 3rd member of the group steps in. She is a priest of Colossia, and her name is Hayes. The trio is waiting for the 4th member of the party, and they all hope that the last person is normal. Just then, the guard announces the arrival of the 4th person. The door opens, and the giant Catal enters the room. The atmosphere in the room immediately changes with the trio left in shock. Catal breaks the silence in the room as he addresses the group. The trio still finds it hard to say anything as they all wonder if Catal is even human because of how big he is and the amount of pressure coming from his body. The captain leaves, closes the door behind him, and tells the group that he will be back after they are done with introductions. Catal is the first to get down to introductions, leaving the others no choice but to follow suit. Catal is interested in Tyrannus, who claims that he is a holy knight. Catal asks him if he can use holy power, and Tyrannus manages to lie his way out of the situation. When Hayes introduces herself, she reveals that she is serving Colossia, the god of lies and deception. Hayes is not really proud to reveal her profession since the god she is serving is not really popular with the people and for obvious reasons. Moments later, the captain returns to the room, telling the group to prepare themselves. The party members are led to the entrance of the dungeon. The dungeon is a 3-floor dungeon, and the monsters in the dungeon are the undead. Their goal is to clear the dungeon and find the emblem.